If you own a Mercedes, you are probably murdering your own engines right now without even knowing it. Everyone swears German luxury cars are doomed the moment the warranty dies. But that is a lie. Mechanics get paid to keep quiet. Today, we are revealing the 17 brutal habits that shove these machines past 500,000 miles without one major repair. Stay put, because habit number 1 will make your dealer furious. Let's start with habit number 17. Number 17. Dashboard warning. Lights here is a harsh truth. That tiny orange light on your dashboard is not decorative, and it is definitely not a gentle suggestion you can casually ignore. Mercedes electrical systems are notoriously sensitive, and problems with central locking, window regulators, and lighting components are among the most commonly reported issues on these cars. OSBC brake warning, for example, is not something you quietly ignore and hope it fixes itself overnight. The Sensotronic brake control system can gradually lose efficiency after a certain number of operating cycles. And when it fails, you are looking at reduced braking power, and Mercedes actually knows this firsthand. Because the SBC system was so problematic that it triggered 2 separate safety recalls, 680,000 cars in 2004, then 1.3 million more in 2005, before Mercedes quietly dropped SBC entirely in 2006 and went back to conventional hydraulic brakes. Owners who treat warning lights like casual suggestions instead of firm instructions are the same owners later posting online about $5,000 repair bills, swearing their car just randomly broke down one Tuesday morning. It did not randomly break down. It clearly told you, and you chose not to listen. A 5-minute scan at a shop could have cheaply caught the issue early, back when it was a $50 sensor instead of an entire replacement brake module. Shops all over the country repeatedly see the exact same story. A customer who proudly drove for months with a light on, insisting everything felt fine, right up until it catastrophically did not. So the very first habit toward 500,000 miles is embarrassingly simple. Respect the dashboard like it is actively talking to you, because it literally is. But here's the thing, the next habit quietly concerns a part of your car you probably have not touched since the day you drove it off the lot, proud and unaware. Number 16. Tire rotation. This one sounds incredibly boring, and that is exactly why so many owners casually skip it. Mercedes vehicles ride on multi-link suspension setups that feel genuinely fantastic when everything is perfectly aligned and balanced. But the second tires wear unevenly, that smooth ride starts feeling like a shopping cart with one stubborn bad wheel. Uneven wear also puts extra stress on control arm bushings and alignment components, which are already frequent complaint points on older models, and once those start failing, your car develops clunking noises that get noticeably worse every single week you ignore them. Rotating every 6,000 miles, roughly every other oil change, spreads wear evenly and protects your suspension from premature, avoidable failure. It costs almost nothing and takes 20 quick minutes, literally less time than it took you to choose what to watch tonight. Skipping it quietly shortens the life of parts that are genuinely expensive to replace later. We are talking hundreds of dollars per corner once bushings and control arms get involved. Mechanics constantly joke that they can tell exactly which owners skip rotations just by looking at the tread pattern from 10 feet away. If you are learning something new right now, hit that subscribe button, because the next habit secretly involves a filter. Almost nobody remembers even exists. Number 15. Cabin air. Filter. Nobody ever brags about their cabin air filter at a car meet, but neglecting it quietly punishes your entire climate system. A clogged filter forces your blower motor to work much harder, which severely shortens its lifespan and can lead to a musty smell that stubbornly lingers in the cabin for months. No amount of air freshener will genuinely fix that. It is a $10 part in most cases, and swapping it takes less time than your coffee break. Literally less than 10 minutes with a screwdriver and a quick video tutorial. Owners who carelessly ignore this small habit often end up replacing an entire blower motor assembly down the road, a job that is nowhere near as cheap and often requires partially pulling apart the dashboard. Small, cheap, easily forgettable habits like this one are exactly what separates a car that dies at 150,000 miles from one that is still running strong past the 500,000 mark. It is honestly one of those habits that feels pointless right up until the day it quietly saves you a much bigger repair bill. Speaking of things people frequently forget exist, the next habit is about a part that literally holds your entire engine in place. And yes, it can quietly fail too, slowly and silently. Number 14. Engine mount vibration. Most Mercedes engines sit on oil-filled mounts specifically designed to absorb vibration and keep your cabin quiet as a library reading room. Over time, these mounts gradually deteriorate and leak their internal fluid, and once that happens, you will definitely feel it, especially at idle, through the seats and even the steering wheel, like your car is nervously tapping its foot at a red light. Owners who casually dismiss this as just an old car quirk often let it drag on for years, and the constant vibration can eventually stress surrounding brackets, hoses, and even exhaust hangers that were never really designed to absorb that much extra movement over time. Replacing a worn mount early is a moderate repair, usually a few $100s per side, done and quickly forgotten. Ignoring it until something else breaks from the constant shaking is not moderate at all. It quickly spirals into something far worse, and by then you are paying for the mount plus whatever it dragged down with it. If your Mercedes feels like it is humming a little too much at a red light, that is not charming character. That is a warning wrapped inside a vibration. And speaking of fluids quietly leaking where you cannot easily see them, the next habit might be the most expensive mistake on this entire list. Number 13. Coolant. Mismatch. This one constantly gets owners into trouble because it seems completely harmless. Just green liquid, right? Wrong. Mercedes engines require a specific coolant formulation, and topping off with whatever happens to be sitting on the shelf at a gas station can cause slow corrosion inside the entire cooling system over time. That corrosion quietly attacks aluminum components, gaskets, and seals from the inside out, which is exactly how a simple, innocent top-off turns into a major overheating disaster years down the road, usually on a brutally hot summer afternoon in the middle of nowhere. It sounds like paranoid overkill until you're staring at a cracked cylinder head and a tow truck bill that stings worse than the actual repair itself, all because of a bottle that costs $6 at a random gas station, which is easily the most expensive impulse purchase you will ever make on this car. The fix is stupidly simple. Just use the correct Mercedes-approved coolant every single time, no lazy exceptions, no matter how convenient the gas station bottle looks in the moment. But coolant is not the only fluid quietly doing damage behind the scenes. The next habit reveals oil leaks you can actually see if you just glance down at your own driveway. Number 12. Oil leaks. As these cars steadily age, oil leaks tend to show up in predictable, repeatable spots. The valve cover gaskets shrink and start slowly seeping, and the camshaft plugs on the back of the cylinder heads are often plastic, meaning they eventually warp and fail completely, letting oil escape drop by slow drop. None of these leaks are immediately catastrophic on their own, but ignored long enough, chronically low oil levels can lead to serious, expensive engine wear, especially on components that desperately rely on constant lubrication under high heat. The fix for most of these is a relatively affordable gasket or seal replacement, done early before the leak gets noticeably worse or damages something sitting right around it, like a wiring harness underneath. Owners who stubbornly wait until there is a puddle under the car every single morning are the ones who eventually pay for a full engine reseal, instead of one simple, cheap gasket that would have cost a tiny fraction of the price. A quick glance under the car once a month is all it really takes to catch this early. Speaking of things hiding quietly under your car, the next habit is about a system that makes your ride feel like floating on air, right up until it dramatically does not. Number 11. Air suspension. Leaks. Mercedes air suspension delivers an incredibly smooth, cloud-like ride when it is working properly, using air struts instead of traditional springs and shocks. But the rubber bladders inside those struts gradually deteriorate, crack, and eventually leak over time, usually starting as a slow, almost invisible trickle of air overnight. Once a leak starts, the air compressor has to work much harder to keep up, cycling on and off constantly through the night, which often burns out the compressor itself completely, turning a moderate single strut repair into an expensive full system replacement. You will notice the warning signs early if you're actually paying attention: uneven ride height, the car sitting noticeably lower after being parked overnight, or odd floaty handling on hard turns. Catching a small leak and promptly replacing one strut is a tiny fraction of the cost of replacing struts in a burned-out compressor together, sometimes thousands of dollars cheaper in the long run. Owners who wait usually end up shocked at how fast one small leak snowballs into a full system replacement, turning a routine fix into a genuine ordeal. The next habit is about a part failure that quietly sneaks up on almost every high-mileage Mercedes eventually, no matter how careful you genuinely are. Number 10. Battery replacement. Modern Mercedes vehicles use advanced, high-capacity batteries that power a serious amount of onboard electronics, from the infotainment system to a dozen sensitive control modules quietly working behind the scenes, and these batteries typically need replacing every 4 to 6 years. Waiting until a battery completely dies is a genuine mistake, because a weak, aging battery can send inconsistent voltage to sensitive modules, sometimes triggering false warning lights or erratic behavior in systems that have absolutely nothing to do with the battery itself, leaving owners chasing confusing phantom electrical gremlins for weeks on end. Proactively swapping the battery on a schedule rather than waiting for a dead morning start in a parking lot protects the expensive electronics riding on top of that power supply like passengers on a slowly sinking ship. It is one of the cheapest habits on this entire list, maybe a couple $100 total, and yet it prevents some of the most confusing, frustrating electrical gremlins owners constantly complain about online. Many shops will happily test your battery for free during any routine visit, so there's genuinely no excuse to skip it. Comment below and tell us honestly, when was the last time you actually rotated your tires? Has it been ages ago? Fix that now. Because the next habit quietly targets a leak that almost exclusively affects one famous Mercedes model in particular. Number 9. Differential leaks. High mileage. E-Class models in particular have earned a well-known reputation for developing differential leaks, usually caused by axle seals or pinion seals that gradually degrade and harden over years of relentless heat cycling. Left completely unchecked, a differential leak can slowly starve internal gears of essential lubrication, and once that happens, you are looking at a repair bill nobody genuinely wants to see, easily reaching into the thousands of dollars for a full differential rebuild. The good news is this issue is easily caught during a routine fluid check, long before metal starts painfully grinding against metal. Owners who carelessly skip regular fluid inspections are basically gambling with one of the most expensive drivetrain components on the entire car, betting that a simple little seal will just hold forever without help. A 5-minute look underneath during an oil change is cheap insurance against a repair that could seriously dent a car's remaining resale value. It is easily one of the most overlooked checks on this entire list, mostly because it is literally out of sight, but drivetrain leaks are nothing compared to what happens when you completely ignore the tiny metal rods responsible for starting every single combustion cycle in your engine. Number 8. Spark plugs. Spark plug issues typically begin showing up around the 100,000 mile mark on most Mercedes models. Worn plugs cause rough idling, poor fuel economy, and eventually full-blown misfires that make your engine feel like it is stumbling drunkenly down the road. And here's the part most owners simply do not realize. Worn spark plugs force ignition coils to work much harder to jump an ever-growing gap, which means neglected spark plugs often take an expensive ignition coil down with them in the exact same process. Replacing plugs on schedule is one of the most beginner-friendly maintenance jobs that exists on these engines, and it protects a much pricier component at the same exact time. Owners who stubbornly let plugs go for 2 service intervals too long often end up replacing coils that did not technically need to fail, they were simply worked to death unnecessarily. Simple habit, expensive consequence if carelessly skipped, and completely preventable with a routine that costs less than a nice dinner out on the town. Mark it on a calendar, set a reminder. Do whatever it takes to not forget this one, because this is genuinely one of the easiest wins on the entire list. Number 7. Catalytic converter. Here is something that genuinely surprises most owners. Catalytic converter issues on Mercedes vehicles can begin appearing at as low as 60,000 miles if maintenance gets carelessly neglected elsewhere on the car. A clogged or failing converter causes poor fuel economy, failed emissions tests, and even visible black tailpipe smoke that will get you sideways looks at every single stoplight. Because the converter works closely alongside your engine's combustion efficiency, letting small issues like worn spark plugs or a rich fuel mixture linger unaddressed can accelerate converter damage dramatically, sometimes cutting its expected lifespan in half. Catching the warning signs early and fixing smaller underlying issues promptly protects one of the more expensive exhaust components on the entire vehicle, one that can run well over $1,000 to properly replace. This is not a part you want to be replacing more than once in the life of the car if you can genuinely help it, so treat every small warning sign as an early chance to protect it rather than a minor annoyance you can just drive through. And if you own a diesel Mercedes, the next habit is even more critical for you specifically, so pay close, undivided attention. Number 6. DPF management. Diesel Mercedes models rely on a diesel particulate filter to trap soot before it ever leaves the exhaust pipe, and that filter clogs especially fast in cars that only do short trips around town, stop-and-go traffic, or quick grocery runs. A clogged DPF forces the engine into regeneration cycles far more often, burning extra fuel and stressing the entire exhaust system in the process, sometimes triggering scary warning lights that genuinely panic owners who have no idea what a DPF even is. The fix is refreshingly simple. Take your diesel Mercedes on a longer highway drive, periodically, letting the engine reach the temperature needed to burn off accumulated soot naturally, almost like giving the exhaust a good, deep breath of fresh air. Owners who exclusively drive short errands are unknowingly setting their DPF up for early, premature failure, a repair that is not cheap and often involves removing the entire exhaust section. One highway drive a week can genuinely save you thousands down the road, and honestly, it is a great excuse to just enjoy the open road for a bit. Set a recurring reminder if you have to, because your future self will thank you for the extra fuel spent on a good, long cruise. Now we are halfway through this countdown, and the habits from here on start separating casual owners from the ones who actually hit 500,000 miles without drama. Number 5. Aftermarket parts. Mercedes vehicles rely on premium, highly specialized components engineered to exact, unforgiving tolerances, and the temptation to save a little money with generic aftermarket parts is real, especially for gaskets, sensors, and suspension bushings that look practically identical online at a glance. But cheap parts on a precision-engineered car often fail much faster, sometimes damaging the very components they were meant to protect in the first place, turning a $50 part into a $500 disaster. Spending a little more on OEM or Mercedes-approved parts is not about brand snobbery. It is about matching the exact tolerances the engineers actually designed the entire system around from day one. Owners who constantly chase the absolute cheapest part end up paying for that part twice. Once for the cheap one that quickly failed, and again for the proper one after it fails prematurely, plus the labor to remove the first failed attempt. It is a painfully common mistake, and it is completely avoidable if you just resist the urge to shop by price alone. Quick reminder, if you are genuinely enjoying this, hit that subscribe button now, because the next habit involves the most feared transmission acronym in the entire Mercedes lineup. Number 4. Transmission service. The 7G-tronic automatic gearbox found in most Mercedes models built over the last decade plus is a complex, genuinely brilliant piece of engineering, but it is absolutely not maintenance-free no matter what some random internet forum tells you. Delayed shifting, jerky acceleration, or grinding noises are classic, unmistakable signs that transmission fluid and filters are seriously overdue for attention. Many owners wrongly assume modern transmissions never need fluid changes because a salesperson once casually told them that, and that single assumption alone has killed more gearboxes than any actual design flaw ever genuinely could. Regular fluid and filter changes keep the valve body and clutch packs shifting smoothly for hundreds of thousands of miles, well past when most owners would have already given up on the car. Skip this habit, and you are looking at a transmission replacement that costs more than most people's monthly car payment for an entire year straight, an entirely avoidable bill for anyone who just followed the schedule instead of assuming modern engineering somehow makes fluid maintenance optional. Speaking of things people frequently forget exist until they are physically rusting through, the next habit is about the body of your car, not the engine. Number 3. Rust inspection. Rust is a silent, patient killer, and it does not care how expensive your car was when you proudly bought it brand new off the lot. As a Mercedes steadily ages and racks up miles, rust typically appears first around the front fenders, wheel wells, bumpers, and rear quarter panels, especially in colder climates where road salt gets liberally sprayed on every single winter drive. Catching surface rust early and immediately treating it prevents it from slowly eating through structural panels later, which is a repair that is both expensive and genuinely annoying because it is cosmetic, not mechanical, so insurance rarely steps in to help cover it. A yearly inspection, plus a good rust-proofing treatment if you live somewhere salty or coastal, keeps your Mercedes looking sharp and structurally holding up just as well as it performs out on the road. It is a cheap habit that most owners genuinely overlook until it is too late, and a good coat of wax every season does more protective work than most people ever give it credit for. And that brings us finally to the one of the most important scheduled habit on this entire list, the one that ties everything else together. Number 2. Flexible service system. Mercedes uses a computer-monitored flexible service system that carefully tracks your actual driving conditions and tells you exactly when service is due, down to the specific component involved, and carelessly ignoring those alerts is probably the single biggest reason engines die early on these cars. These engines are engineered around high-quality synthetic oil, changed on a strict, computer-calculated schedule, and stretching that interval to save a few careless dollars is a gamble that rarely pays off in the long run. Modern reliability rankings actually show that Mercedes vehicles perform better as used cars than as brand new ones, according to Consumer Reports, which ranks the brand higher in used car reliability than in new car reliability, suggesting that owners who faithfully stick with proper maintenance schedules end up with genuinely dependable, long-lasting vehicles that only get better with age and consistent attention. Trust the computer, not your own optimistic guess about when service is probably due, because your gut feeling is not reading oil sensors in real time, no matter how confident you feel behind the wheel. But even perfect scheduling means absolutely nothing if the wrong person is doing the actual hands-on work. Which brings us to habit number 1. Number 1, finding a Mercedes specialist. Here it finally is, the habit that matters more than all the others combined, the one that genuinely ties this entire list together. Mercedes vehicles are genuinely more complex than the average car on the road, with specialized diagnostics, proprietary software, and parts that do not always behave like their mainstream counterparts from other, simpler brands. A general mechanic might do a perfectly decent job on a routine oil change, but misdiagnosed electrical faults, incorrect fluid choices, or a badly botched air suspension repair can turn a minor, cheap issue into a major, expensive one shockingly fast, sometimes within a single rushed visit. Finding an experienced, ideally ASE-certified independent Mercedes specialist or a trusted dealership technician who actually knows these specific platforms inside and out is the difference between a car that struggles to even see 200,000 miles and one that confidently cruises past 500,000 without drama, without surprises, and without slowly draining your entire savings account. Every single habit on this list works best when the person turning the wrench actually understands what they are looking at, so choose that person as carefully as you originally chose the car itself. It is honestly the one decision that quietly determines every other outcome on this list. Comment below and let us know which habit on this list surprised you the most. Hey, thanks for watching. If you found these Mercedes longevity habits genuinely helpful, let us know in the comments. We honestly read every single one. Want to see which car models are actually worth buying used? Click on the video right on your screen now. And if you do not want to miss more car secrets like this one, hit that subscribe button right now. Seriously, do it before you forget.